Star Wars Battlefront 2 is one of my most played games of the last decade. I first bought it on the Xbox One and then again on the PC when I made the switch to that platform, which looking back was probably one of my better life decisions. And I grew up playing the original games from Pandemic and I absolutely love those titles, so I was very hyped when DICE announced that they were going to be taking the reins of the franchise a few years later. But in 2017, when Battlefront 2 came out, I actually skipped it. The loot box controversy was everywhere, and really, I wanted no part of it. I didn't play the first Battlefront that DICE made either, mostly because that came out when I was in the midst of packing up my life and moving across the country. I stuck with Destiny 2 instead, and I kind of regret that. And I say that because Battlefront 2 is a fantastic game. It's easy to pick up, hard to master. It hits this perfect middle ground between arcade chaos and tactical team play. It isn't trying to be a milsim or a sweaty extraction shooter. It's not punishingly difficult. It's just fun. Big battles, simple mechanics, wacky moments, and easily the most authentically looking Star Wars experience ever made. DICE actually got to access the Lucasfilm archives, and they used a technology called photogrammetry, which was a scanning process that allowed them to capture the real props, costumes, and blasters from the movies and put them in the game. Every dent, scorch mark, and fabric crease was digitized and is in the game as it was in the films. The result is a Star Wars world that feels alive. It's not just detailed, it's cinematic. I know graphics don't matter too much these days, but this is one of those games where the visuals genuinely do matter. It feels like stepping into the movies that I grew up with. Battlefront 2 is my childhood imagination made real. The action figure battles that I staged on the living room floor brought to life in full scale and in stunning detail. Now, I don't want to eulogize Battlefront 2 just yet. The community remains pretty strong even 8 years after release, and while EA and DICE may have stopped official support for the game back in 2020, fans have kept it alive through some incredible projects like the Kyber servers or the Battlefront Plus mod, both of which I highly recommend checking out if you are on the PC. Now, before I gush more about why I love this game so much, we need to talk about the infamous launch. EA announced Battlefront 2 in 2016 to massive excitement, but as launch day in 2017 approached, that hype quickly turned to outrage. Players discovered that unlocking heroes like Darth Vader would take dozens of hours of grinding, unless you paid for loot boxes, of course. And those loot boxes didn't just contain cosmetics, they held star cards that directly affected gameplay. Those star cards offered more health, faster ability cooldowns, and more damage. It was a pay-to-win mechanic in a full-price game. Then came the Reddit post. EA tried to defend it by saying the system gave players a, quote, sense of pride and accomplishment. That comment went on to become the most downvoted comment in Reddit history, with over 668,000 downvotes. That's an internet record you really don't want. And the backlash was so bad that governments even got involved. The Belgian Gaming Commission investigated whether the loot boxes were a form of gambling. Their Minister of Justice said mixing games and gambling, especially at a young age, is dangerous for the mental health of a child. Now, they ultimately ruled that Battlefront 2 did not violate the law, but that's only because EA had reworked the system before their investigation ended. Other countries like the Netherlands, the UK, Australia, and Singapore all launched their own inquiries as well. And in the US, Congressman Chris Lee called the game a Star Wars-themed online casino. The fallout was massive. EA disabled all in-game purchases just as the game hit store shelves. Their stock price dipped, billions in market value evaporated, and Battlefront 2 underperformed against its sales targets. By March of 2018, DICE completely overhauled the progression system, removing the pay-to-win elements entirely and making loot boxes purely cosmetic. But by that point, the damage was done. The game's reputation was torched, and the controversy became a symbol of corporate greed in gaming. And Battlefront 2 still sold around 9 to 10 million copies worldwide, which are very strong numbers by most standards, but EA wanted more. Like I said earlier, I didn't buy Battlefront 2 until 2020 when the Celebration Edition dropped and the dust had settled, but by then all the rough edges were smoothed out and I finally saw the game for what it really was. And that's a genuinely great Star Wars experience. EA and DICE ended support in April of 2020, not because of the loot box backlash, but because DICE moved on to Battlefield 2042, ironically a game that had its own issues at launch, but that's a story for another day. Now, the real tragedy is that Battlefront 2 still had so much potential left on the table. The foundation was strong, and I would have gladly paid for new maps, weapons, and heroes. Instead, support just stopped. It's one of the few live service games that actually deserved long-term support. Now, I want to talk about the mode that actually keeps me coming back to this game, and that is co-op. Co-op matches drop you and 3 other players into large-scale battles against waves of enemies. You capture or defend command posts in a tug-of-war style setup. There's no sneaky flanking or backcapping, just a clear front line to contest. a Battlefront, if you will. And what I love most is that it's the full Battlefront experience. Tanks, starfighters, heroes, dozens of troopers on screen at once, all without the stress and unpredictability of PvP. Because listen, some of us don't have the time to sweat through competitive shooters anymore. I'm not trying to get stomped by someone with 2,000 hours and a $300 mouse. I just want to relax. I want to play a few matches, feel like I'm part of a massive Star Wars warzone. And that's why the co-op is perfect. It's accessible, fun, and quick. You don't need a mic, a squad, or a ranked mindset. You just jump in, blast some clankers, and enjoy the chaos. And because you're fighting the AI, it's easier to earn battle points, meaning you get to play as the heroes or the special units more often. Now, what makes Battlefront 2's gameplay so satisfying is how well-tuned everything feels. Each class has a clear role and a distinct rhythm, movement has just the right weight and responsiveness, and the combat rewards positioning, timing, and the smart use of cover. The cooldown-based ability system keeps fights cinematic and fast-paced. There's no ammo counting, no inventory management. It's not meant to be realistic, it's meant to be fun. And the guns themselves are great too. They're distinct, punchy, and attuned to different playstyles. I'm partial to the TL50 on the heavy class, modded for the improved cooling and the reduced spread. It's a beast. I'm also a huge fan of the active reload system in this game. Adding even the most basic layer of interactivity to actions that were previously passive creates the demand for constant input, which keeps you locked into the experience. It's just another way the game grabs your attention and never lets your hands or your mind go idle. And it's the kind of small, satisfying interaction that more games should implement. Now, for someone like me, mostly a single-player gamer who's got 2 kids and limited free time, Battlefront 2's co-op mode is the ideal middle ground between a single-player campaign and a PvP arena. There's no complex systems, no pressure, just pure cinematic Star Wars chaos whenever I want it. Sometimes I just want to load up a match, swing a lightsaber for 15 minutes, and call it a night. Battlefront 2 gives me that, and honestly, that's why it deserves better. Now, if you're over 30, you probably remember the original Battlefront games from Pandemic in the early 2000s. Pandemic had a very distinct style, large open battlefields, combined arms gameplay, and pure chaotic fun. 2002's Star Wars The Clone Wars gave us sprawling vehicle battles with tanks, speeders, and walkers. 2004's Battlefront gave us class-based infantry, vehicles, and the iconic Star Wars locales. Basically the same as Star Wars Clone Wars, but bigger and better. In 2005, we got Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction, and Destroy All Humans, both large sandbox games with huge maps, vehicles, chaos, over-the-top antics. They also made Full Spectrum Warrior in 2004 and its sequel, 10 Hammers, in 2006, showing their range with forays into tactical strategy. And I highly recommend that you check out both of these games if you still have an original Xbox. They are worth checking out. They're awesome. They're great fun. Pandemic was shuttered around 2009 after the release of The Saboteur, but before that, EA had handed the fabled Battlefront 3 project to Free Radical Design sometime in 2006, and Free Radical spent at least 2 years developing Battlefront 3, only for EA to cancel the project without any kind of public explanation, though it was likely due to funding issues and mismanagement. Now, leaked footage shows that it was an ambitious game with seamless ground-to-space battles, cinematic moments, and features far ahead of its time. It's a tragedy that this game never saw the light of day because it would have been adored by fans. And honestly, I'd probably still be playing it. Fast forward to the post-DICE era, and after 2 successful games, EA again halted plans for a 3rd installment. According to journalist Tom Henderson, DICE did pitch Battlefront 3 to EA, but EA turned it down because of licensing costs, making it financially risky. Now, former DICE developer Mats Holm says he doesn't expect a 3rd installment anytime soon, if ever, citing major developer turnover and EA's renewed focus on original IPs like Battlefield. Battlefront feels like one of those cursed series that's stuck in limbo despite fan demand like Left 4 Dead and Half-Life. Now, I don't know that we're ever going to see a Battlefront 3 for real, whether it be from DICE or another studio, but it really just breaks my heart. I love this series, grew up with these games, I still play them, obviously that's why I'm talking about it here today, and I want to see a 3rd installment. I can only speak for myself personally, but Battlefront 3 is probably #1 on the list of games that I want most. Projects that don't yet exist that I want to will into existence, Battlefront 3 is #1 on that list. I'm sure many of you feel the same. It's undeniable that the fans' desire for a 3rd game is real. The series even surged to the top of the charts this past May, proving that people still care and that they still want more. I know I'm a few months late to the party, but here's my take. We want Battlefront 3, we need Battlefront 3, and EA should know that the franchise deserves better. So get out there and play more Battlefront. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. That's all I've got today. Feel free to tell me your favorite Battlefront memory in the comments down below, or if there's a similar game that you think I might like, let me know. I'll check it out. Thanks. See you later.